Without fail, the number one thing I hear from people is they want to lose fat and build muscle. So if that's you, listen up. The problem with these two goals is that while you can kind of do them at the same time, they're really best done separately. One of them, losing fat, is actually relatively fast. The second one, building muscle, way slower and almost frustratingly slow for people. And they tend to lose their way because of the length of time it takes to actually go through a genuine muscle building phase. There are 3 distinct phases when it really comes to getting the kind of body that you're after. The first is your first attempt to lose fat. Now at this point, all you're focused on is getting the weight off. It doesn't matter how, you're just desperate to get the weight off. The basic list of ways people do this is all the stuff you've heard all the time. Cut out carbs, cut out processed foods, cut out alcohol, cut out things like dairy, bread, and pasta. We're going to do fasted cardio. It's all about maximizing fat loss at this stage. Now, eventually, one of 2 things will happen, or maybe even 2 of 2 things will happen. The first is that you'll probably run out of the willpower to continue dieting and exercising like that. And the second is that you may fall flat on your face because of the hard training while in a big deficit. And finally, when you've actually lost all the fat that you need to lose, it's probably going to be more than you think, but when you finally lose all the fat that you need to lose to get down to that coveted six-pack, you're going to find what most people find, that's they don't have much muscle to begin with. And that gets us to stage 2. Now stage 2 is the growth phase. This is where the person decides that I'm lean, but I don't really like how I look, and I need to add some extra size to my frame so that I end up with the body that I truly want. And the biggest problem here is that after losing weight and finally getting down to being lean, people are scared to start eating more. They've spent a lifetime being overweight. Their idea is that the moment they start eating more, they're instantly going to blow back to the point they were before they started this entire dieting process in the first place. Now, just like perma bulking has problems, trying to be in a perma cutting stage brings problems with it too. There are some long-term thyroid issues you can cause other metabolic problems as well, but you can't be in a maximal fat loss phase forever. It's just not going to be healthy. And that means you've got to be in a diet surplus. You have to be okay with gaining a little bit of fat to allow you to gain some muscle. Now, as my bulking video shows, it's not as much fat as you might think, and the amount of surplus you need to be in isn't as high as most people think, but you have to be in a bit of a surplus to allow you to gain that muscle. The key focus here is, as always when it comes to resistance training, progressive overload. Either need to focus on adding reps every workout or adding weight so that over time you're stressing the body more and more. Now, while studies show the maximum amount of muscle you can gain in a month is about 1 kilo, those are very short-term studies and they're done on people about half my age. If you're in your 40s or 50s, the maximum reasonable, realistic amount of muscle you can gain is somewhere between 0.25 to 0.5 of a kilo per month. While that may seem slow, if you think about it, that's a 3 to 6 kilo lean mass gain per year if you do everything right. 6 kilo of muscle per year would be a tremendous gain for a natural trainee. And what this really means is you need to settle in for the long haul. Realistically, in my long-term clients, we see 2 to 3 kilo of muscle gain year on year. So that means if you think you need to gain 10 kilo of muscle or about 22 pounds, that's going to be like 3 to 4 years of work to finally get you to the point where you're happy with how you look. So now here we are in the third phase. This is the second cut that's actually going to reveal the body that you want. From your initial diet through the growth phase, this could be as much as 4 to 5 years after you began this journey. It's a long process. But here's the truth about what you've got to look forward to. You need to track your food all the time, every meal. You need to make sure you get 8 hours sleep every night. You're going to be going to the gym more days than not. Realistically, it's 4 to 6 days a week of structured activity. There'll be no late nights. There'll be no junk food celebrations. Every single loose end in your lifestyle needs to be locked down to achieve that final physique that you're after. Over this time, you'll have probably found that you stopped hanging out with a bunch of people because they no longer have hobbies that are in line with your end desire. So you now have a new social circle focused around the activities and the healthy lifestyle that you now enjoy. As you get lower in body fat, this is now from about 15% down. You can comfortably be in 12 to 15% body fat without having to really put the hurt on yourself. Below 12%, into that below 10% and single digit category that many people covet, there are some real negatives that come with it. For starters, there'll be little or no social gatherings, with one of the main reasons being that you've got such little fat on your butt that you can't even sit still for an extended period of time because it's too painful. General energy levels may crash, you'll be hangry and short-tempered quite a lot of the time, and everyone around you will think you're being a bit of a dick. And then the final thing is that you might have placed unrealistic expectations on yourself because you're being inundated with motivational pictures of people half your age who are taking truckloads of drugs, setting you up for failure, and ultimately lowering your self-esteem because you can't look like a 20-year-old. So let's back up a bit and find the silver lining to all of this. As I said, you don't need to get to 10% body fat or less to have a physique that is admirable and really something that a lot of people will notice. To get to that head-turning point, you really only need to be around 12 to 15%. Remember, only 25% of men in the age 45 to 57 are actually in a normal body weight category. There's 70+% who are overweight or obese. So simply being in a low body fat state already sets you up for success in terms of how other people view you. Once you start dipping below 12%, that's where a lot of the negative stuff starts coming in. You'll know you're heading there when people ask if you're sick or if you've got an eating disorder. At less than 10%, you are definitely going to get people asking you if you've got something like cancer or if there's something medically wrong with you, and you probably will be sick quite often because your immune system will be compromised from being so lean. You'll also be cold all the time if you're below 10% because your body simply lacks the energy to warm itself up continually like it is when you're slightly fatter. So what I'm saying is that after you get to that dream physique, 10% body fat that everyone covets, what you really want to do is nudge yourself back up into that 12 to 15% sweet spot that makes you look good but isn't overly restrictive and allows you actually to enjoy life again instead of being hangry and having no sex drive.